So, dude, it was kind of it's kind of been interesting this week. The absolute biggest concern coming out of the Tampa game should be the defense. Maybe the secondary, maybe the pass rush, maybe just the entire defense, right? But
Yeah.
in DC, I think more people were concerned with how much Jayden ran with the football. Where did you land on kind of your reaction from week one?
All right, so I'm sure you guys have talked about Jayden needing to buckle his chin strap a little bit tighter. I'm sure that's been a topic that has come up
we
at
believe
some point
they
this week.
need to address that. Just if it's a smaller helmet or a tighter chin strap, let's get that fixed. That is non-negotiable.
I think what he does is he doesn't buckle it tightly on purpose, and whenever he gets hit, the helmet goes flying, and you're like, oh, that's a penalty. And I think he got a penalty just because his helmet fell off, which is that's next level thinking. He found the market inefficiency.
That's unbelievable thinking if that's what he's doing.
Yeah, and he's got the Steph Curry mouthpiece going on. It's a good thing I've never said anything bad about Steph Curry chewing his mouthpiece during games over the 8 years of this podcast. I've always been in favor of that, for the record. Let it show. Yeah, so the hits were somewhat of an issue, but I think there were only 2 runs that he had that were designed runs up the middle. Those were the ones where I'm like, he should not be doing this. He should not be running into linebackers like this. A lot of the others were he looked at one read, maybe checked out his check down, saw a lot of room downfield if they were playing man. So defense with their back turn, saw a big gap in the coverage and took off and got an easy 6-12 yards, whatever the case was.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like let's keep doing that. If they're not going to respect that, then take it. I'll take 6 yards. I'll take 10 yards
all the time,
every single time. Yeah, that was the easy stuff. And he's got he I don't know if he needs to learn to slide better, but he seems to be a head first slider. He like dives a little bit. So whatever it was, he was getting down on the ground. He was avoiding a lot of those hits. But the design runs that they got going up the middle, I would like to see less of those because those are the ones that will definitely add up. You're getting hit by a dude that weighs 50 pounds more than you repeatedly during the game, and that's his favorite thing to do.
Well, dude,
when you see a quarterback, a skinny little guy like Jayden running at you, that's you just start licking your lips if you're like a linebacker or defensive end.
Did you see that there was Cliff Kingsbury spoke yesterday, and I was really impressed by this. He owned that he made a really bad call for Jayden at the goal line, one of the design runs that kind of ended up going up the middle because he didn't give him anything to check to, and that the backer didn't go with the motion, and he basically sent Jayden into the cheese grater. And he's like, I was just so impressed because he's so tough and competitive that he still scored anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you're right. Like when we get caught up in the design runs at the goal line is kind of different than the one that they ran at like their own 40 or whatever. But I agree with you. I think we get too caught up in the proper slide, like a base runner sliding into third base, legs first.
Get the ball
that
the same
kind
way.
Of dive, barrel roll, land on your shoulder is pretty kind of normalized across pro football now.
Yeah, if he feels comfortable doing that and he's doing it safely and he's not, landing on his shoulder awkwardly, then I say, yeah, that's good. You're not taking those hits. But yeah, it was just really like 2 runs up the middle that were designed that had me scratching my head like that doesn't need to happen. The one at the goal line, he just kind of turned his back to the line and started backpedaling into the end zone and it worked out. But I could see him taking a bad shot to the spine or to the kidney, and that ended up being real, real bad. But I don't have that much of an issue with the design runs. I want to see, what I really want to see is just some more creativity when it comes to downfield passing because we didn't really cut him loose. He had that one pass that he overthrew to Terry. That was a pretty bad overthrow. I think he missed by like 4 or 5 yards, and that could have been a touchdown very easily. But we didn't really go back to that at all. I don't know. I don't know if you guys watched the tape. You guys grind on that all 22 because I did not see the all 22. So I don't know if there were shots available downfield. I don't know if it was just something that the defense was making sure to not allow out of Jayden, and so all he had to work with was underneath. But if you look around the league last week, passing was way, way down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's only one 300-yard passer in week 1,
yep.
And most guys were in the 100s. Jayden, he did get Rookie of the Week, but I think that if we're being honest, we talked about this on today's part of my take. Joe Alt should have gotten Rookie of the Week for the Chargers, but it's never going to go to a lineman. A lineman will never win that award. And it kind of stinks because Joe Alt played really, really good for the Chargers against the Raiders last week. But Jayden was the best of the rookie quarterbacks, and then Marvin Harrison might as well have been in Siberia last week. So I guess they kind of had to give it to him. But he didn't play bad. I thought Jayden played okay, and I think that our defense it might be a very long season if we don't figure out what's going on with this defense, because that was bad. They got whatever they wanted. It was ugly. It was sad to watch. And I don't know. I guess I got to trust in Dan Quinn because he's put together some good defenses before.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the roster's not there. Maybe the scheme wasn't right for going up against the Bucks. But whatever it was, it's going to be a long season if it looks remotely like that week in, week out.
But the thing about Jayden, like, he took what was given to him, and I'd much rather him do that than try to force the issue.
I asked him post game, Jayden, a lot of the passes were at the line of scrimmage, and he's like, yeah, Tampa just really, really forced us to not be able to get much deep, and I just try to stay patient. So,
but I think every quarterback in the league
changes.
was doing that, even the veteran quarterback.
Dude, I mean, Josh Allen last night had 140 yards passing.
Yeah.
And that's a playmaking dude.
But the 140 in that situation was because it was short field.
It'll just be interesting to see if this week one and now week one plus a game continues, or if it's kind of just a week one thing.
It won't last the whole season, I promise.
Yeah, you don't think running backs are back? We're not back to 3 yards in a cloud of dust?
Nah, they want you to throw it.
You're probably right. You're probably right about that. I am worried about the Giants, though. I don't want to underestimate the Giants. I know to be fair, the Giants stink. I want to be very clear about that. They're not a good football team, but we're not a very good football team right now. And I feel like the Giants usually have our number in these types of games, even when they're bad, even when it's Daniel Jones. He's been very, very successful against the Commanders in the past. So it's not like we should be overlooking the Giants at all. We shouldn't overlook anybody, but they are bad. So I want to see us win. If we don't beat the Giants, then it's, for buckle up, because it's going to be a long, long season for us.
Well, dude, it's interesting, too. We're talking with our friend PFT Commenter here on the BetQL guest line. Of course, you can follow PFT, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you want, at PFT Commenter. If Washington loses to the Giants, I think it'll be a rough week for Dan Quinn, especially if there's some strategic, maybe decision-making that people disagree with. But if the Giants lose, somebody might get fired up there. Like, if the Giants lose this one and Saquon goes off again for the Eagles in another national game, like, the pressure on New York.
Will it be Shane or Dable?
I don't know that either of them gets canned this early. It's week 2.
I don't know.
But, the pressure up there is.
The man that said he's going to be sick is the owner.
Yeah.
So let's think about that.
Why did they let that clip out? I have no idea why.
Because he wanted it to be out to have a reason. When I fire you, you know why.
Yeah, you're probably right. The owner's probably playing a little bit of chess on that one too. It's just head scratching why they let Saquon walk and they gave Daniel Jones a big contract. I think everybody in real time at that moment was saying you're making a bad decision. I think the only people that it was a classic case of you have a quarterback, so you kind of have to pay him, and we see that around the league a lot. If you have somebody that might be halfway good, it's like, well, do we want to stick with this guy, or do we want to just completely roll the dice in the draft? And I feel like the Giants, they've won Super Bowls with quarterbacks that haven't been great all the time. Like Eli Manning was a good quarterback for a while, but he had some really, really bad seasons. Mm-hmm. And I think that told the Giants, like, you don't need a top 3 quarterback in the league to win a Super Bowl. And they saw Daniel Jones being just like a carbon copy of kind of a boring type of Eli Manning guy. And they're like, yeah, we can work with this if we build around him. The problem was they haven't really built around him at all. Like, the offensive line still stinks. They've got a couple nice pieces on defense. I guess I like Neighbors. I think he's going to be good. But they let a lot of their good players go. And I'm happy that they did, because we get to maybe not finish in the basement of the division this year, but we got to beat a bad football team, or else, you know what that makes us? It makes us a bad football team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Dude, we were kicking this kind of debate around the other day, and I feel like you'll be a perfect person to ask this question. Obviously, the Giants are coming to town. Eagles in a couple weeks, Cowboys later in the season. When you and I were growing up, I'm a little older than you, but we're roughly the same age. When you and I were growing up, when Brian was playing, Cowboys week just meant something different. It just did. But today, in the year 2024, for the Washington Commanders, do you still think Dallas is the biggest rival? Has that shifted at all? Whether it's the Giants, the Eagles, I mean, some people say it's the Ravens. Like, has that changed at all to you?
Well, the saddest part about what's happened in the last 25 years is that nobody hates us. I want to be hated.
I'm with you on that.
That's a great point.
I yearn to be hated. So when we were in D.C. the other week, we played that concert downtown here, and there was a big F the Eagles chant that got going, right? And I loved hearing that. It was awesome to hear. And then the next night we were playing up in Philly, and Roan asked me before the concert, he was like, do you think that they're going to get a F the commies or, something like that going? I was like, dude, they don't care about us. I would love to be despised enough in Philadelphia for people to yell stuff at me. Like, they throw snowballs at Santa Claus, but I don't think that they would look twice if Dan Quinn walked down the street.
Oh, if they know it's Dan Quinn, they're gonna throw something at him too. They don't like nobody.
That's a possibility, but mostly because Dan Quinn was the defense coordinator on the Cowboys. Like, nobody hates the Commanders, and that to me is the worst part about it. Like, I will lead the charge on this. I have to put my hand up and say, maybe I'm not being a big enough jerk online to Eagles and Cowboys fans. We need to give them a reason to hate us, because indifference is really what's killing me. The easiest way to do that is obviously by winning football games against those teams. But I just yearn to be hated by a fan base. And it's very, very sad. It's very, very sad that we can't even be hated. But we might be on the right track back. I'm still hopeful for the long-term future here. But that defense gave me a lot of doubt as to how much hope I should have for this season. And I'm curious to know your take on this. But Dan Quinn, he goes out there before the game. He's got his hat on forwards in the first half, trying to show, I don't know, professionalism. I don't know what the deal was.
We talked about that yesterday.
He came back out and the hat was backwards. It reminds me of that dude. What's his name? Gary Patterson from TCU. Sometimes he used to change his shirt at halftime. I don't know. That might have been a sweat issue too. Maybe he was like sweating through his white polo and maybe showing a little bit too much to the crowd, and he had to change into a purple at halftime sometimes, and then they would come out and play better. I don't know if Dan Quinn was trying to change the vibes up in the second half, or if he was like, hey, I'm a head coach, I better have my hat forwards because Colin Cowherd's going to get on the air and rip me apart if I don't. But that was an interesting move that he pulled. I'm still like I said, I'm optimistic about Dan Quinn being able to at least somewhat improve this defense. But again, we're going to learn a lot this weekend, because
yes, we will.
If the Giants carve us up, that's bad news. And it's, you know what?
That would be terrible news.
It's bad going up against. We need to beat the Giants, because we're going up against a team whose quarterback earlier this week on Monday was announced as the starting quarterback. And what I mean by that is, like, everybody knows that Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback of the Giants. And then Brian Daboll in a press conference said Daniel Jones is our starting quarterback. And everybody was like, okay, that's interesting.
We already know that.
That's a bad sign. That's a sign that things are falling apart for an organization. So we can't get beat by a starting quarterback who is just announced as being the starting quarterback, even though everyone already knows.
I think you nailed it, how everybody kind of feels like, man, the Giants suck, but do we suck? You know what I mean? It's like there's a level of nervousness, but there's also
But I think the thing is,
there's a level of calm, maybe, that Jayden should be the best player on the field.
Yeah, the Giants can suck because they just suck. We suck because we're rebuilding something now. And I think that's the ultimate thing, where I think we keep forgetting that thing they said, rebuild. We hear it. Okay, yeah, we know. The season start, we judge them based off of the better teams in the league.
Yeah, we're. I
Agreed.
think was it Adam Peters that said we're not rebuilding, we're recalibrating. I don't know the difference between the two, but I like that he had a bigger word for it that tells me that he's locked in. It is. We have a good excuse for being bad. Yes, we have a much better excuse than the Giants do. But again, Daniel Jones, I think he's 5-1 against us in games.
5-1-1.
5-1. That's right. That's right. That tie. God, that tie was bad.
That was so bad.
I'm getting Rivera flashbacks right now. But yeah, he's 5-1-1 against us. So we have no reason to just think that we're going to win this game. Like we have gotten our butts kicked by the Giants before, and this iteration of the Giants. Yeah. So let's go out there, and we should be able to score some points. Jayden should be able to look good. And all I want to see is just slight improvement on the defense and the kicking game. The kicking game was bad.
Yeah.
That was bad last week.
Bad.
That should be improved based off of you let the kicker go.
Dude, I may be on an island here. I don't even care if the defense doesn't look better. I just want to see the offense look better, because I think defensively that rebuild is years away. And frankly, if it keeps going like this, I won't be surprised if they're again sellers at the trade deadline defensively. I want to see Jayden and Cliff, frankly, as a play caller. Like I want to see the passing game look more functional.
Yeah, maybe. I want to see both sides.
You want to see a win.
No, I want to see both sides get better. I don't just want to see the defense. I mean the offense, because we brought in the defensive-minded people to run this team.
Yeah.
If the defense is not improving, then that's not good.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I agree with that. So yes, I want to see the offense look good. Maybe it's kind of a 500 IQ play to have the defense so bad that your offense just gets to spend more time on the field. Like if they give up home runs, if they give up 60, 70-yard touchdowns, that just means more Jayden out there getting more reps in an offense and more looks for Cliff. But I do think that it obviously has a lot to do with Dan Quinn. And if the defense doesn't improve, then you start thinking to yourself, like, is Dan Quinn going to be the right guy to be at this job for the next 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years? So that part does mean a little bit to me. But also, I want to win some divisional games. You always want to beat the Giants. You want to beat the Cowboys. You want to beat the Eagles. So I do want to see the defense step up and make some plays. How did you guys feel about Bobby Wagner? Because his arms look gigantic this year. I don't know if he's getting extra reps at the curl bar or what's going on in the weight room, but that dude is a monster physically. I saw a couple plays early on where I was like, is this the same Bobby Wagner? And then you look at the stat sheet later and he's tackling everybody out there. So I don't know what you guys saw, but I was left a little confused about whether or not I should be excited about Bobby Wagner.
I tell you what really excited me was late in that game, and they're down 3 scores, and it's hot as hell down there and humid, and you have a guy that's like a surefire Hall of Famer in the fourth quarter of a blowout making a tackle for loss. Like I think as much as dude, he's not the same player he was 5-10 years ago. He's not. Mm-hmm. But I think he's a veteran presence that's a good tackler. They didn't have much good tackling the other day. Yep. I think there's a lot to like there. But I this is not Seattle All-Pro 2014 Bobby Wagner.
It might be just a genius move by Adam Peters to bring him in because Bobby wants to be commissioner of the NFL one day, right? And so building that relationship with him, one day he's going to be the commissioner, and then we'll be able to get away with all sorts of cheating. That's how Robert Kraft and the Patriots were good for so long, because they had that great relationship with Goodell, who would just slap him on the wrist or burn tapes and throw him in a back room. So maybe Adam Peters just getting a lot of FaceTime in with his boss 6 years from now. So that would be a very smart play.
Chestnut checkers, man.
Oh,
the other guy I was a little concerned about, and I'm not writing him off. Don't get me wrong. Not going to write this guy off yet, but Sandsfield had a pretty lackluster debut. I don't know if it was him getting lost in coverage sometimes. I don't know if he didn't know the assignments. I don't know if somebody else missed their assignments. But I was hoping for big things out of him. It seemed like they were picking on him a little bit.
I don't think it was his best.
It was one play where they gotta correct that. Yeah, him and Quan. They can't try to cover that much ground from that far away.
That was the deep shot to the rookie McMillan, but then the touchdown at the goal line to Godwin, that you might just have to tip your cap. I mean, that's a pretty tough. He got rubbed a little bit, and then Godwin made a really clean break, and Baker threw a really good ball. I don't think you're wrong, but I wouldn't give up. I still really like Mikey. PFT, we got to bounce, brother. Thank you so much for the time, as always.
All right, brother.
All right, you guys have a great weekend. Let's get this W this weekend, guys.